All right, we are live. So I am so glad to be back here today. You're here with the Black Carnivore. I am the Black Carnivore, and today we have Dr. Cecily Ann, otherwise known as the Fasting Doctor on Instagram, who is just knows all about fasting, and we're going to talk to her today about that. So I'm really excited, and we're just going to jump right in because she has 1 hour for us. And I want to make sure that I respect her time because that's really important and respect everybody's here as well. I feel like everybody knows who you are on Instagram, but if we have anybody here who doesn't follow you on Instagram, and you have a YouTube channel as well, right?
Yes, I will say I need to get better and be more active on my YouTube channel, but I do have a YouTube channel as well that's
Uh,
still under the Fasting Doctor.
okay, all right, great. And so, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Like, how did you get into fasting? What do you do? How does that inform your day-to-day practice? I mean, you are a physician as well.
Yeah, so I got into fasting in 2017. Some of you may have heard of the book by Dr. Jason Fung called The Obesity Code. So a friend introduced that to me, and it just made sense. So I began intermittent fasting, looking for weight loss initially. I mean, the book's called The Obesity Code, so that's what drew me to the book was as a method for weight loss. And then once I started learning more about intermittent fasting and just kind of delving in more to about like nutrition and lifestyle, I just kind of then continued to like refine my diet, refine some of my habits, and
Mhm.
really trying to get beyond just weight loss, just to improve my overall sense of being and sense of well-being. How I integrate that into my medical practice. So I am a maternal fetal medicine specialist. So I work with high risk pregnancies, whether the pregnancy is high risk because of the mother or because the baby has an issue, either or sometimes both.
Mhm.
And a lot of people can reduce their risk of adverse pregnancy outcomes by becoming healthier prior to pregnancy. So, a subset of my clinic is developed to preconception health. To really use lifestyle factors to improve health prior to entering pregnancy.
Wow. So, I guess I hadn't really thought about how important that part is. I mean, in terms of improving, your fertility and the, chance of a healthy birth. So,
Mhm.
that's great for thanks for sharing that. So, and then your personal experience with fasting, did you say you lost weight with it and you continue to use it yourself?
Yes, so I did. So, after the birth of our second son, I had reached my highest adult weight then, and it was 264 at the time. And so, just at that time, I was pre-diabetic and hypertensive, and met the criteria for metabolic syndrome, and just really looked at like if I didn't do something about it and I kept going the direction I was going, it was just going to be that harder later on to, um, you know, get healthier. And so that's when then at the 264, that's not when I started fasting. So then, I tried move more, eat less, and, the traditional calorie counting and all that stuff. And I did get down probably just a little bit above 200 pounds, but then the weight just started creeping back up. And so when I started the obesity code, I was probably around like 230 or so. And then lost, well, now I think to date, probably still down about 70 pounds from that, and using intermittent fasting, but then also changing my diet, having a more whole foods lifestyle, really trying to decrease the processed carbohydrates,
Mhm.
and then trying to incorporate like movement, stress reduction, and some of also other things that are important to just overall health.
Oh wow. So that's great. And you've just recently had a baby or sort of recently, right?
Yeah. Yes.
And so you're back to fasting now, or did you do it like through your pregnancy and afterwards as well, or?
So I wouldn't say that I did fasting probably in the traditional sense of what people are thinking of, like a 16/8 or a 24, or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I did practice regular gut rest. I mean, I still am of the belief that there's no reason, just because you're pregnant, that you should be eating at 10, 11, 12, at night. And we also tell people, like, when they're suffering from heartburn, the first thing we tell them is not to eat, 2 to 3 hours before bed. So if you're not eating 2 to 3 hours before bed and you're going to bed at a decent time, and then you're waking up in the morning, I mean, that's 12 hours of gut rest right there. So
Right.
I continued to do, probably 12 to 14 hours of gut rest a day. Didn't really, push it or anything like that, because the goal wasn't necessarily weight loss, right? But it was to gain weight throughout pregnancy in a healthy manner, because you can gain too much weight for pregnancy. And then after delivery, well, I'm still nursing, so I guess since there's a pandemic going on, I'm probably going to nurse Wyatt till he's like 8. I don't know, at the rate we're going right now. But he turns 13 months this month, and we're still nursing. So I did intermittent fasting through nursing, but it was very gradual approach. And so I picked one thing to kind of focus on at a time. And so I could reevaluate and see how that schedule was affecting my milk supply. Because it always comes back to milk supply.
Hmm.
So if you're not keeping up an adequate milk supply, then you might be doing too much,
Hmm.
right, for your body. And so that's kind of, how I did it through then. So still nothing really, I would say, super long or anything like that. And I certainly didn't do any fasting, I would say, probably the first 6 to 8 weeks, because again, that's the time when the milk supply is getting established. But after it was well established and we were nursing fine, I usually did about 16/8 throughout.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Well, so I just asked you a whole bunch of questions, and I really appreciate your coming on the live stream tonight. And we have, and you've come to speak to our group before on a Zoom call, and so I really appreciate that. And I know a lot of people got to ask questions, but we have so many more. The community is continuing to grow, and I know there's other people that didn't get to ask questions. So
Oh,
I encourage you all in the chat to, to go ahead and type your questions in if you have any, and we'll try to get some of them answered. I see we have a bunch of people who are here live watching, so I ask you to hit the like button, the subscribe, and hit the little bell icon so you can get notification every time we go live. We definitely want to make sure that you're hearing all the news, and I want to just call out Johnny G. Bayet is here, Denise, Miss Tady, Bayet, Melvina. So hey to all of you. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. And yeah, just go ahead and put your your questions in the chat. And in the meantime, what do you say to someone who's new and coming to you looking to either break through a stall or kind of, begin to clean up their eating habits? Like, how would you suggest that people, get started?
yeah, and I forgot to say, and I know it's cheesy, but obviously this is all for informational purposes. If you have medical conditions, right, you need to talk with your
Of course.
personal physician. But that's the world we live in. But in general, I think what I encourage people to do if they're in a stall is kind of one, first, is it a true stall? Because I think sometimes people define a stall as they haven't lost any weight on the scale. But if they're keeping up on measurements, if they're looking at how their clothes are fitting, if they, have taken pictures, they'll see physical changes. And so sometimes people expect the scale to move at, kind of this linear downward slope, and it just doesn't always do that. So first, are you truly in a stall, or can you point to any other changes? Like, oh, I haven't lost any weight, but my pants, are loose, noticeably looser. Well, then you're not stalling. You're still making progress. It's just not on the scale at the moment. But if you think it is a true stall, um, looking again kind of at the whole picture. So, one, are you actually doing a clean fast? Because I find that most often people say they're fasting, but when I talk to them, they're like, "Oh, well, I've had diet pop during my fasting window," and I'm like, "Oh, well, that wasn't fasting," or, "I'm having
Wait,
coffee, but
really?
I
So
have."
0 calorie beverages don't are not fasting?
So no, it depends on what the beverage is, right? So I mean, because you
Okay.
can have plain tea that you make from like a tea bag,
Hmm.
that doesn't really have any additives or anything like that, but you can have the like diet pops and things like that. I mean, it has different artificial sweeteners, so that's going to modulate and affect insulin in different ways. And so when you're fasting, you're wanting to keep insulin levels low and keep those spikes low.
Gotcha.
There recently was a study that I think came across in the press actually too, that was linking diet pop to all sorts of different ill adverse health effects or adverse health
Wow.
effects. So I mean, it's what's in your 0 calorie drink, because not all 0 calories mean zero hormonal influence. And so what we want to try to do is just get at those things. Your safest bet is always water.
Mhm.
Honestly, if you have to think about it too hard, whether or not this will or won't, if you can do just water, that's going to be your safest bet. But again, black coffee and tea, not sweet tea, but tea that you steep out of a tea bag. Because I know it sounds funny, but like I'll go through and it's like when we get
Oh
to
no,
that
it's
level, people are like, "Oh, you mean I can't that tea thing that I buy?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, that's no, no."
yeah.
So one, it's looking at your fasting. Also, sometimes you could do really well during your fasting window. But then I still go back to, what are you fueling yourself with and how frequently are you eating in your eating window? Because if you're just constantly grazing all the time,
Hmm.
you probably are spiking up and down. And so you may not gain any weight, but you may not see the weight loss that you want to lose. And then always people underestimate the effects of poor sleep quality. Even though I'm going to be up late tonight, I try not to do that too often, because chronic sleep deprivation, there's the Wisconsin sleep study that shows a U relationship with weight. So once you start to chronically get below 6 to 7 hours of sleep, especially once you're below 6 hours of sleep chronically, that's associated with the increase in BMI. So that it affects stress and all of that, your circadian rhythm, and then also stress reduction just in general. So you could be doing lots of things right, but you're not prioritizing some of those other things. That's why it really is a true lifestyle altogether.
Right. Okay. Well, that's really helpful. And thanks for the information about the diet soda. I mean, I don't drink diet soda, but I think that a lot of people feel like that's sort of innocuous. So that's
Well,
good to know.
no, and I mean, I used to think that too. I mean, a while ago, but yeah, I mean, I guess not even that while ago. I guess 2016, because I love diet soda just because, like, if I was up and running around, like, it would give you like the little boost of energy or things like that. So I would drink several of those a day, but I also didn't lose any weight. But it's diet, so should be
Yeah.
fine, right? And it's not. You can have additives in there that affect your body chemistry. So,
Yeah. Okay. So I do see we have a question come in from Johnny G who asked, "Does fasting slow your metabolism?" And he asks in all caps, and that was on purpose. So
okay.
I think he's really worried about his metabolism, as you know, as we all are, right? We want it to
Yes.
be moving at a speedy pace.
So, no, it should not. So, the thing is, it's that when I get concerned about people slowing their metabolism with fasting, it's more of, are you consuming enough calories? And I know that sounds strange because we usually say eat less, eat less, eat less. But if you're eating nutrient dense foods, it's not necessarily about eating less per se. You need to make sure you're getting enough calories. So, common scenario, I'll see someone start 1 meal a day. And I have nothing against 1 meal a day. I know sometimes people are like, she doesn't like 1 meal a day. But my concern with people who truly only eat one meal a day is that it is hard to sit and eat 1,200 calories in a meal. You have to have a certain amount of calories to fuel basic metabolic function. And so when I see people going through sometimes stalls doing one meal a day, when we actually go back and then I have them log their food because I'm like, I have to see what you're doing. We do a rough calculation and they might be getting 600 to 800 calories a day. Well, that's
Wow.
not going to sustain you. And so then everyone assumes it's the fasting, but it's really the inadequate caloric consumption that you need. So, no, fasting really should not slow your metabolism. You don't need to eat frequently to keep your metabolism up. Um, Fasting works to help, keep your metabolic rate at a basal high level, just like a low carb diet would, right? Like low carb is a fast mimicking diet because it's producing ketones, and the same thing with fasting, you're producing ketones. So, the long and short answer is if you're fasting properly, no. But if you're trying to combine fasting and then also doing extreme kind of caloric restriction, that's not a good combination.
Uh-huh. Okay. So if you can do one meal a day, but you can pack in the calories and get somewhere in the 16 to 1800 calories in that meal, then you're good.
Yeah, and so honestly, I like kind of a more modified one meal a day approach, and you can still count. Again, we get really hung up on labels, but um, what I like to do for myself is when I'm kind of changing up my fasting schedule, I might do more of what people describe as like the warrior diet where you have like a 20-hour fast and then you eat
Mhm.
in a 4-hour window. And I'll do like two decent sized meals in the four
Mhm.
hour window because, again, I find it hard to sit in one sitting. I mean, there's tricks you can do. You can add olive oil for extra calories, you can add coconut oil, palm oil. I mean, butter. You can do things to get the caloric intake up, but it is
Mhm.
still personally hard for me to get in an adequate meal with just one. So over a 4-hour period, I'll have two different meals. And
Mhm.
that usually gets me up to at least 1,200 for the day. And then that's kind of the little trick I do with that. The other thing is if you are going to do one meal a day, and you are just going to have that one meal, then alternate with different fasting schedules, right? So you might decide to do one meal a day, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but on Tuesday, Thursday, you are having just like, a 12-hour eating window. So
Uh-huh.
that also helps to get at the shifting caloric intake and keep the body guessing, making sure overall you're getting adequate caloric intake.
Okay, so it's good to not just habitually do one meal a day, but shift it around a little bit, or do the warrior, or
Yeah, if you're having trouble getting your intake in. So I have a lot of people who like one meal a day, and so
uh,
they will do something like they'll do one meal a day 3 times a week and then do a lighter fast the other days. And so then that makes up
mhm.
for, kind of their down days where they may not be eating as much
Gotcha.
just because again, it's hard in one sitting um to eat that. So there's ways you can play
Yeah.
around with it.
Okay, cool. And I see Esther Hunter says that was helpful to hear about the lack of sleep being a factor, which I'd heard before, but didn't think it was that big a deal. So, can you tell us what is the big deal about not getting enough sleep? Like, what are the problems that it can cause?
So there have been a host of it, and some of this comes from studies on night shift workers, actually, and it's a lot of it has to do with circadian rhythm malalignment or misalignment. So, right, traditionally, if we think back way, way back when, before the advent of electricity, when it became dark outside, the activity in the village stopped, right, because you can't see and you're not going to have fires burning uncontrolled in your house, so you just stop, right, you're going to go to sleep. And then when the sun came up in the morning, people got up, and so everything was patterned around the sun. Well, over time we also developed a hormonal clock or biological clock where certain hormones are higher at sun times, some are lower. And so the problem that comes in with inadequate sleep, night eating, all of those things, our body really wasn't designed to process food too much after dark because we wouldn't have been doing that naturally. So, for instance, you can take the same meal that you would have at 8 a.m.
Hmm.
and have it at 10 p.m. at night, and you may have 2 or 3 times the insulin spike that you would. Same meal, nothing changes the timing of the day. And so the same thing happens when you have the fasting, or not fasting, sorry, when you have the sleep deprivation, that can raise cortisol levels over time. Cortisol levels make you more resistant to um, fat burning. It's more of a storage. It can lead to inflammation, etc. So it's kind of all getting into that time where the nighttime really is supposed to be for rest, cellular repair, cellular regeneration. And when you're not doing that, you are leading to states of hormonal imbalance, inflammation, etc.
Gotcha.
And so that can be linked with higher rates of hypertension, heart disease, like all sorts of things.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So that's good to know. Get your sleep. Make sure you get your sleep.
Yes, it is important.
Okay, so Denise asks, when I fast, I always have gut distress upon refeed, no matter what I eat. So that's a common question, I would imagine.
Yeah, I guess. Well, can she type in? I can't see the chat. So, how long are you fasting?
Yeah, Denise, go ahead and tell
Say,
us how long you're fasting, and and we'll come back to that. Um,
I'm curious to see like what her fasting times are.
yeah. Well, while she gets back to us, Johnny G
Okay.
asks, oh, Delisa, awesome. Thank you so much. But Johnny G asks, are longer fasts like 3+ days or alternate day fasting better for weight loss?
So it really just depends on what your starting point is and what you can do consistently. So I will have people who do pretty much nothing longer than a 20-hour fast and still have a very good weight loss. And that's because they're also willing to, quote unquote, clean up their diet. Alternate day fasting is very effective, especially depending on how much weight you have to lose. But I'm hard pressed to say that one is better than the other. Personally, I think whatever the best fasting length for you is the one that you're going to continue to do over time, right? So if you can do alternate day fasting and you can do that for a several month period, and then you can slowly convert that to something that you're going to do, for the rest of your life, then that is fine, assuming you don't have any contraindications to that. If you feel like you're going to do alternate day fasting, but then after a week, you're like, oh, this is horrible. And you're upset because you may have only lost a couple pounds during the first week, then that might not be the regimen for you. You might be better off doing a 16 through 20 hour, somewhere in that window, but then also really focusing on your nutrition at the same time. So
Mhm.
I've seen success with a myriad of different fasting combinations. And so that's why I tell people really not to get caught up if you see people, they're like, oh, wow, they can do a 3 day fast and I can't get past 22 hours. Okay, that's fine because it's consistency over time.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I often hear that comment about, going hard in the beginning, but it's like 6 months it takes to, really start to, have these accumulated benefits. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, well, how long would you say it takes to like have significant benefit? And not the weight loss, but like the other health benefits.
The other health benefits, I mean, they have some short-term studies just where they've done research on people looking at like hemoglobin A1C, insulin levels, and things like that. And some studies have shown nice results in like 6 weeks or less. The shortest I've seen
Wow.
was maybe like 4 weeks. So if you're talking about all the things beyond weight loss, you can start to see that probably within as little of a month of consistent fasting, especially if you're a huge night eater. If you're a huge night eater and if you can start to cut that down, you will start to notice just some general health benefits. And then weight loss for everyone is variable. And that's why I tell people to take measurements. I mean, I've seen people come back to me depending on where they were starting at, especially if they're
Hmm.
starting upwards near, closer to 300 plus pounds. I've seen people come back to me and it's nothing to see that they're like, I lost 20 pounds since the last time I've seen you. And I've
Yeah.
seen people who start lower than that and they're like, oh, I only lost 5 pounds in a month. And I'm like, no, that's fine. Do 5 times 12, right? I mean, that's still a huge thing if you're consistent. So don't look at fasting as this I don't know, the thing where you're going to fast for a week and you're going to be down 10 pounds. Like that's just not how it
Hmm.
works
Yeah.
for most people.
Okay. So some people just have to be patient and work harder and longer.
Yes.
Great.
I mean, yes.
Exactly what we want to hear. Okay, so Denise got back to us. So she has fasted for 3 days, and then she writes sometimes alternate day 12 or 16 is okay. So I assume she means the gastrointestinal distress
Long.
happens at 3 days, but the alternate day or the shorter one is okay.
Okay. So there are some people once you have like just had that long of gut rest, there are some people who never kind of get over that. Because if you think about it, even though depending on, yes, you may have seen someone who's fasted for like 30 days or something like that, but still 3 days, 72 hours is a long time without food. And so what's happening is that your gut is just kind of asleep. And so when you reintroduce food, especially if you are having a full meal as your first meal, like that's probably why it doesn't matter what you eat. Because if it's a really decent sized meal for your first meal, a lot of it you're going to get kind of the cramping and the diarrhea and just kind of all of that because your gut is asleep. So if people are doing longer fasts like that, when you refeed, you really have to go gradually. And you still may have a little bit of like loose stool or things like that, but it shouldn't be painful. But it's definitely, typically how I break my fast are I like to do fermented foods. I know not everyone likes fermented foods, but the first meal that I have is not large by any means, and it's actually very low in fat. So the first time I did an extended fast, I broke it with a caprese salad because I was like, "Oh, tomatoes from the kitchen garden." Yeah, that was horrible.
I can only imagine.
Horrible.
Ah,
I was pretty sick
yeah.
after that. And
Yeah.
there were whole foods. I mean, like whatever, but yeah, it just that was not a good idea. So, over time, what tends to work after I've done like the fermented foods and kind of just woken up a little bit, I'll wait a couple hours, and then honestly, I usually have fish. I usually have something very light, and it's not too much spice. It's not how I would normally cook, right? But it's just something very light, low fat, but still a whole meal.
Hmm.
And I'll do that, and then honestly I usually wait until the next day to then really start to gradually still get back up to what would be a normal meal size for me. So I break it over. Honestly, I break my extended fast probably over a series of 24 hours, to be honest. And I don't try to go back to eating the same size I was, prior to the extended fast immediately. And that's how I've avoided, continuing GI distress.
So yeah, so it's definitely a process to
Mhm.
reintroduce feeding. And I remember you saying before, breaking for, at first with something fermented and then like an hour later have some very lean protein like bone broth or like fish
Mm,
with no fat or anything. And then a couple of hours later having a light meal and then like the next day you
right.
can Yeah.
try to go a little more forward. Yeah. So I mean that's the thing. And so
That's
you just
kind of
have to.
involved if you're trying to fast often. Like, let's say you're trying to do a 3-day fast, every, week. That takes a while.
Right. And so that's why I also don't do extended fasts like too often, right? So I mean,
Mhm.
I usually don't recommend people do that more than once a month. Just because the
Okay.
process is involved, you're better off, I think, doing consistent longer um daily fast, if that makes sense. Like
Hmm.
doing like, your 18 or 20-hour fast during the week, and then maybe once a month having a longer fast if you're doing it for, higher levels of autophagy. But remember, you get autophagy starting as little as 16 hours. So if you're doing it consistently over time, you don't have to do extended fast regularly. So
Hmm.
I think once a month is more than enough. And like you pointed out, like if you're gonna have to go through a process to break your fast, I mean, to do it every week or every few days, that's gonna be um very involved. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And
That's
then
super
the other thing
helpful.
is too, I mean, you're some of it you're trying to mimic how we used to, again, kind
Hmm.
of eat. So it's not like people were fasting naturally because, if it's whatever season and they were having a hard time, hunting deer, antelope, or whatever the wild game was, of that
Yeah.
area, it may be a few days between meals. But it's also not like outside of like the religious calendar or whatever, that people were also like, okay, it's time for me to, go 5 days without eating just because. So you have to be careful on how often you do that because that can be a stressor.
Yeah. Okay. So that was a great question, and definitely something I have like struggled with and never kind of got it quite right. But since we've last talked, I've really tried to start implementing like fasting, and I think it's been almost a month now, no, maybe 3 weeks of trying to do like one meal a day. And it's taken a while to even work my way up there, but I'm
Yeah.
kind of there. Although the last 2 days, not so much. But I feel very confident that I am like getting the calories in. So it's definitely, I'm not concerned about not getting enough calories. But in fact, I find that when I go ahead and start eating, I might not yet be hungry, but I still want to eat.
Right. And so that's the thing too about fasting. And I think too, I will say, if you are on a carnivore diet, yeah, you're probably not going to have an issue getting in the nutrients because meat in itself is so nutrient dense, especially depending on like what cuts of meat you're having.
Mhm.
That is probably less of an issue, I think, than, if you are on a different, whatever type of different diet, name a different diet. But I don't worry about that as much when people have meat kind of as the cornerstone of which they're basing their nutrition on, right?
Yeah.
Um, but with you being, with having a carnivore diet, remember, like we said earlier, that's a fast mimicking diet in itself, and ketones seem to suppress hunger. So you yourself are always in a ketogenic state, whether you're counting macros or not. By default, you should be in a I mean, just the physiology, you should be in a ketogenic state. And then with fasting, that also is producing a ketogenic state as well. So
Mhm.
you probably aren't necessarily hungry when it's, time to eat. But at the same time, I mean, you probably want to eat eventually. So, you break your meal. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that which I think is fine. It's all a balance. You may use that one day and try a longer fast if you're
Hmm.
not hungry, but I also don't, I think if you're doing one meal a day and I think that's fine. Because, and I think you recognize it too. I think it's about knowing your hunger cues because some people really legitimately can't tell the difference between when they're hungry versus when they're stressed versus when
Mhm.
they're bored. And it sounds like you're already in tune with that. So, no, it
Yeah,
sounds like your schedule's a good one.
yeah. Well, I'm working on it. I do like to eat, and food is good, so it's kind of like, oh, that's a good idea. Oh,
Yeah.
it's not really that
Yeah.
one.
And like I said, you may not have to do, again, if you're already in a fast mimicking diet, you may not have to do fast as long as someone else who is in
Mhm.
a highly processed diet, right? Because you're
Right.
baseline getting a lot of those benefits that you are also getting with fasting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our next question is from Bayet, who asks, dry fasting for longer periods like Ramadan, 29 to 30 days from pre-dawn to sunset, once a year versus continuous wet fasting, 12 plus hours. I assume, yeah,
So you mean, I'm assuming you mean like the daily fast with Ramadan. So like when it's you're not intaking anything liquid or food from sunrise to sunset, but then when sunset hits, you are going to drink fluids. That's what I'm
yes.
assuming you're talking about versus there are some people who just try to dry fast for several days and that's not good.
Yeah,
Continuously.
no, no. I think they're talking about specifically doing Ramadan, but doing that once a year versus the benefits that you might get from, continuously, water fasting, maybe 12 or more hours a day,
Hours.
like doing it on a continuous level.
So honestly, I mean, I think the benefits will be similar. I guess I want to make sure I understand the question. So, I mean, if Ramadan, you're doing the Ramadan fasting for once a month, um, during that month, you're going to get great benefits. The water versus not water, we have no evidence, even though you'll see things all over the internet, we have no evidence to suggest that from a health benefit, that omitting water gives you faster results with intermittent fasting. So to me, you're going to be getting great health benefits the month of Ramadan, um, even with it being a dry fast during the day. Um, that's not going to impede or accelerate progress versus someone who's outside of Ramadan, who's fasting, for 12 hours continuously, but will take water. So I
Mhm.
have a lot of people who celebrate Ramadan and will do the dry fasting in accordance with religious practice during the month of Ramadan. But then they continue to fast outside of Ramadan for
Mhm.
anywhere from, whatever schedule they pick. But they will incorporate water during that because at that point it's not necessarily for the religious purposes, if that makes sense. The goals there, and people see great benefits. So you can do both and it just really depends on the time of year and what you have to achieve spiritually at that point.
Mhm. Yeah. So I mean, what I hear is like a one-shot deal is that helps for the moment, but it doesn't give you long-term health benefits in terms of
Correct. No, I
fasting.
mean,
You just got to keep
exactly. I
doing
mean, I think
it.
yes, I if that's the question, yes. So I mean, I think it's going to be helpful for that month and yeah, it's better than if you hadn't done it at all, right?
Mhm.
But outside of that, I would still continue to practice some form of gut rest on a regular basis just for lifestyle purposes and benefit.
Gotcha. Okay. So we got a lot of people here. So again, hit the like button, subscribe, and the little bell icon so we can get you can get notification when we go live. And if you have any questions, go ahead and put them into the chat. I definitely want to get to everybody's questions. And Delisa, thank you so much for the super chat. Remember, everybody, like there's I think at the bottom of the chat box there's a little dollar icon. You feel free to and make some donations so we can continue to bring this kind of content to you for free. Okay, so Bayet says that was a good answer and that was helpful information. So thank you. So what else might you recommend for someone who's really seeking weight loss? Are there any other tips or things that people should know? Like, what about how do you incorporate exercise with that? Do you work out? Do you work out? Do you work out while you're fasting?
Yeah, so I'm a fan of fasted workouts, but I realize too that a lot of people have to build up to that over time. So if
Mhm.
that's not like your go-to immediately, don't worry about it. And honestly, it depends on where you're coming from, right? Like some people have not really exercised in years. So if you haven't exercised in years and you think you're going to go join a CrossFit gym, you're probably going to be discouraged, right? So we need to
Yeah.
start with obtainable goals so that we get some small wins up front and then we build upon those. So for people who really just haven't moved much at all, I usually recommend starting off with walking
Hmm.
30 to 45 minutes a day, 4 times a week. And one, it does several things, right? It's a stress relief. It gets you outside, so you have more vitamin D exposure, sunshine, etc. So it's working on more of those things than just, oh, I'm burning these amount of calories. We're trying to get you, kind of at the whole lifestyle thing. So that's always a great place to start if you haven't done anything, recently. And then resistance training, again, it doesn't have to be anything heavy or lifting. You don't really need any equipment. You could do squats. And for some people, if you're starting out at a very basic level, just putting a chair behind you and that process of sitting down in the chair and getting back up and sitting down in the chair and getting back up and starting with, 15 of those and doing 2 or 3 reps a few times a week combined on your walking days, you're going to start to notice progress over time and you can build on that.
Hmm.
If you have already worked out or been working out, then fasted working out, I mean, give it a try. You may not be able to go at your max, usually maybe start at 80% of whatever you think your max is. But over time, you'll get used to it. And I always use Terry Crews as my example, but he lifts fasted, and everyone knows Terry Crews. So there you go. My N01, but everyone knows Terry Crews. So
Yep. Yeah,
there's
we all
there's
know him.
definite things you can do with that. Other things that you can combine fasting with other lifestyle changes. We've already talked about the sleep, meditation. Again, getting at stress relief, either whether it's a form of affirmations. It doesn't have to be long. I think everyone thinks of meditating, for an hour, just humming to yourself. It doesn't have to be anything like that. It could be 5 minutes a day in a space to yourself where you do deep breathing. You get up in the morning, you have affirmations, just again, trying to get at some of the other stressors in your life so that you're less likely to break your fast because you're stressed.
Hmm.
Managing some of these other things that kind of get in the way of our health.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's super helpful. Let's see. Okay, so anyone else, you can go ahead and put your questions up there. But we are going to be wrapping up in a couple minutes, so make sure you get your question in. Um, so so for me, I mean, we here are carnivores, so that's what we do, and kind of discourage people from trying to start fasting initially upon going keto or going carnivore. What do you say to that? Like, at what point is it a good idea to then start playing around with fasting?
I agree with you. And it really just depends on what you want to start first. I think that um and I can use myself for an example, right? Like when I was like, okay, I'm gonna lose the weight, like you start working out and calorie count, the traditional things, calorie counting and doing all these things all at once, and your body is just like, whoa, what
Yeah.
what happened? So, I was the opposite. For me, I started fasting first and got used to that. And then as I got more interested in fasting, then I started playing around with my nutrition and refining that, right?
Hmm.
So the flip side can be true too. If you've started carnivore first, get that down because I mean, it may sound like it's simple, just eat meat, but it's not. It's learning how to prepare different things, looking at the nutrient density, different cuts of meat, all of that, and getting your body used to that because you're probably going into ketosis probably regularly for the first time, right? So get that down. And then once you feel like you have a good control over like your hunger cues, things like that, you're noticing improvement, you feel like you have it down, right? Like you got it down. Um, then if you want, you can either start lengthening the time between meals. So sometimes people just underestimate the power of just meal spacing. You know, if your meals were kind of always like at, I don't know, 8, 12, and 4, or something like that, can you push the time between 8 a.m. to that noon meal to maybe 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock,
Hmm.
if you don't want to do 12 hours or however long fasting. Or conversely, start with that evening meal and see if you can push it up so that you have more time overnight to sleep because your sleeping counts as fasting.
Right.
But yeah, I don't necessarily have a magic thing to say, after 6 weeks of carnivore, then start trying to fast. I really think it's once you feel that you're comfortable with your relationship with food, you're comfortable with your schedule, then try to tack fasting on it on top of that. And again, don't be discouraged if you're doing, 12 to 14 hours on a regular basis because you are still getting those benefits of ketones and ketosis
Hmm.
during your eating period because of your lifestyle.
Uh-huh. So would you say fasting is like a lifetime practice? I mean, is this something that's safe to do until, your very last day? And
Yeah, no, there's no reason because again, there's no reason that we have to eat after dark on a regular basis all the time at night. So fasting again can be something as low as 12 hours of gut rest at night, right? So it just depends on, how you're defining fasting, but to me everyone should have some form of gut rest, a break from eating and incorporate it. So no, I don't know that um, people necessarily. I mean, I guess we don't have long-term data on it for me to recommend for or against, but alternate day fasting, for example. I don't know that you're going to do alternate day fasting from age 20 to age 100, right? Like, I don't know if that's realistic. Um, but what I
yeah,
have
I'm going to
seen,
be doing exactly the same thing every single day that I did when I was 20 all the way through life.
yeah, I mean,
It all
it's
makes a
gonna
good idea.
yeah, it's gonna change, right? But what I've seen people like once they reach kind of their goal weight, because remember, fasting has benefits outside of weight loss.
Hmm.
A common thing I'll see people do, again, when I use that example of 1 meal a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I have a lot of people who have reached maintenance mode. They do 1 meal a day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They don't really worry about the caloric intake. And then the other days of the week, they just do simple gut rest, after dark. They maintain their
Gotcha.
weight, they get health benefits.
So it's
So,
sounding like you're saying no matter what fasting you choose, it is good to not eat after dark until
yes,
morning.
if you can't, and we're all human, right? Sometimes that's going to happen, but consistent night eating, I would try to avoid.
Okay. All right. Now I see a question from Chantel Montgomery. Is there truth to women of menstruating age needing to fast less the week prior due to progesterone? And how do you feel about snake juice fasting? Sounds
So,
like those are two different
I have
questions.
seen a lot of things and posts and about like how to fast for fertility and your menstrual cycle. I'll be honest, the people that I work with, we have never adjusted their fasting schedule because of their menstrual cycle. For myself personally, I've never adjusted my fasting schedule based on my menstrual cycle or ovulation. I've adjusted my fasting schedule just based on me, how I'm feeling, and what results. Um,
So on a PMSy day, have you ever just said, not today?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's some days
Okay,
where
so
I
that would
just
be adjusting it, but not overall, not like a global decision. It's just like a day to day. I don't feel like it today.
correct. But and I'll see people where they're like, yes, to maximize hormones and to do this, you need to fast. Da, da, da. I mean, I don't. We had Wyatt. I wasn't really like planning my fasting schedule around like, okay, we're gonna get pregnant with Wyatt today. So I mean, it just, you're in an overall health. To me, being in an overall state of good health is
Mhm.
the best mechanism to prime the body for fertility.
Okay. All right. And let's see. asked, do you have any thoughts on children and young people fasting?
So I do have thoughts on that. I don't think that you should. So again, my household as an example, my kids know that my handle is the fasting doctor, right? And I have kids that are ages 9, 6, and 1. So in terms of how we operate in our household, I would never tell my, 9, almost 10-year-old, you're fasting today. But what
Hmm.
I do is I let them eat intuitively. So before I kind of got into intermittent fasting, we were probably just like everyone else. We're like, okay, guys, it's time to eat. So, here's breakfast. It's time to eat. Like, oh, you've been outside too long. Come inside. It is now time to eat. What we've switched to is that we get up in the morning, especially on weekends. We get up in the morning and I don't start making breakfast, or my husband doesn't start making breakfast until someone comes up to us and they're like, hey, we're hungry. I'm like, oh, okay, you're ready to eat? Okay, great. Okay, then here, let me get breakfast ready. I'll have it. Well, we
Hmm.
got you 30 minutes, same thing. If they're outside playing and it's a nice summer day and they're having fun, I do not interrupt their play to tell them it's time to eat. I wait for them to come in and like, Mom, like we're hungry. I'm like, oh, okay, okay, come, let's eat. And so what we try to do is get them to know their hunger cues. And they'll tell us, I mean, they're not going to let us not feed them. So they will come and get us when they're ready to eat. But we've stopped kind of the mentality that they have to eat on a schedule, if that
Okay.
makes sense.
Yeah. So, wow, that's really powerful. I mean, I sounds like, they're going to be pretty well adjusted. I mean, I wish that I don't know, that I had grown up sort of letting my appetite, dictate when I eat rather than, sort of having a mental decision to eat.
Right. And that's what we try to get them to tell us. And so and it's so interesting when you just observe them, because there are some days where I'm like, I just fed you. I literally
Yeah.
just fed you. Like, why are you asking me for food again? But I'm like, okay, fine. Here's another,
Yeah.
let me get something else, because we try to minimize processed foods in our house too. So I
Hmm.
don't, they're not eating a bunch of quote unquote junk. And then I'll have other days where I'm kind of like, anybody want lunch? I mean, it's going on. I'm just saying, I mean, if you don't want it, that's fine, but we have
Yeah.
food if you want it. So it's so interesting if you just let them tell you when they're hungry. They vary depending on what's going on. If they have a day where
Yeah.
they're very active or what have you, they will come in and find you more frequently, versus other days they're just kind of relaxing and they're fine. So it really is nice to let them kind of guide when they want to eat, and just kind of like how I say my fasting changes, their eating schedule changes kind of based on how they're feeling.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's excellent. Diana asked, will stevia break a fast? So we kind of talked about that earlier, but stevia specifically, that's one people like.
Yeah, stevia. So the fasting community is kind of split, very divided on that. There are some studies that seem to show that stevia doesn't raise insulin as much. And I saw one study even that said using stevia might actually improve hemoglobin A1C levels, but I don't like stevia. And the reason that I don't is because I really don't like sugar substitutes, I guess, because we're trying to decrease our dependence overall on sugar. And we're trying to refine our palate so that you're tasting the natural sweetness in the foods that you're eating. And so I will see people at first they start off with a little bit of stevia, and then it's a half a cup of stevia that they're, adding to things. And I'm just like, I I have a hard time seeing how that is beneficial for you. So I tend to not like stevia in my fasting windows, the same way I don't like additives too much in coffee during my fasting windows, or your teas. I really like your plain fast. But then if you want to put that into your eating window and you're using that to cook, yes, I'd rather you do that than sugar, hands down.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So we have quite a few people here, but we have come up on 8 o'clock. So I want to respect your time. I really appreciate your coming on and answering these questions and really having a great conversation and sharing with us. So do you, well, I guess I should ask, do you take like, remote patients, like if somebody wants to work with you, or like how do they, what do you do?
Yeah. So, if you're currently in the state, it's just how the telemedicine laws work. But if you're currently in the state of Missouri or Kansas, where I'm licensed, I can do, telemedicine. And meaning, what's the difference between telemedicine and coaching? So, telemedicine or telehealth, meaning I could actually look at your medical conditions, I could look at your prescriptions, I could adjust those based on fasting and all of those different things and give you stuff like that, and guided medical lifestyle therapy. Versus if you're outside of those states, I am restricted to coaching, meaning coaching is still a lot of the lifestyle things that we talk about, helping you come up with a fasting schedule, but in no form or fashion could I look at your medications or give you input on what to do with those or your health conditions.
Hmm.
And so the easiest way to reach out if you're interested in any of that is just to send me an email at info at the fasting doctor. .com, or my website has a contact info there. It's thefastingdoctor.com. Or send me a DM on IG. Again, the fasting doctor. So I try to make it really simple. And there's a multitude of ways you can find me.
Okay, so everybody, you heard that. If you want to get more information about fasting, and I can see that the fasting doctor is a wealth of information. She's definitely helped me over the years. So, I encourage you to head over there and check out, become part of her community. You have a Facebook community, you said, and
Hmm.
right, and your YouTube and everything. All
Yep,
right
it's
then.
and pretty much everything's under the fasting doctor. I tried to keep it simple, so it's
Okay.
cross platforms.
All right. All right. Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it, and I will see you next time,
All
sometime.
right. Yes,
We'll
definitely.
do
And
this
thank
again.
you for all that you're doing, because I think, again, lifestyle is our greatest mechanism to improving
Hmm.
health. So thank you for opening people's eyes to that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, you have a great evening.
Thank you, you too. Have a good
All
night.
right. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, everybody. So I am going to bring in Arian, and we're going to continue the conversation. So I hope that Arian is ready, and he has been watching all of this, and he is ready. This has really been an awesome conversation. I'm really excited to kind of chat with him about a fasting schedule, and how else we can continue to gain the benefits of fasting. And I've really enjoyed doing my one meal a day, and I think it's been super helpful. So I am excited to keep working on that. So, anybody else have any comments or questions? Oh, Arian is not coming in. You guys were especially quiet today. I think that must be because we talked about some really interesting stuff there, and pretty important stuff. So, okay, now we have Arian here. Wow, and I left a mess behind me. So sorry, guys. Sorry you had to see that. Um, hey, Arian, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you well. Let me turn this mic around. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay.
So welcome. Um, yeah. Okay. So, what did you think today? Did you hear anything that was surprising or new to you?
Um, damn it, there was something, and now I can't remember. I really should have wrote it down. Um, the part about I guess I can't think of the new things, but the part about kids eating intuitively, I feel like I've only heard that maybe like once before, but it makes perfect sense that we adults are the messed up ones because standard American diet has affected us for all this time. But actually, if you just take a normal human being that hasn't been all messed up and you just let them eat when they feel like eating, they will, and they'll eat when they're supposed to. Um,
Yeah, that was
so
all brand new information to me too. I never thought about kids like, eating intuitively.
mhm. It makes me think of even I used to drink intuitively. Like I didn't think about how many glasses of water I was supposed to eat or something. I was running around all day. I waited until I got super thirsty, and then I would guzzle water until I was full, and then I wouldn't drink again for hours probably.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. I mean, I kind of feel like, the Ramadan way of fasting, like, almost makes more sense. I mean, if you don't want to walk around all day with like food and snacks and stuff, like, why wouldn't you do the same with water? I mean, I don't want to walk around with a jug of water or have to think about those things throughout the day. I don't know.
I
Seems like,
guess I don't know. Y'all can have that dry fasting. That doesn't sound. It's not a thing I would want to try.
okay. Okay. Only like a billion people a year do it. I mean, it's not like Ramadan is
Oh
pretty
yeah,
common.
right. Yeah, and great for them. But I it's not something that I really would feel like trying. It's just not my
Yeah.
thing, or at least I don't think it would be.
Yeah. Well, I see it's funny. It says we had to behave. We had company. Yes. Thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate that. Proper
Yeah.
behavior. And hey, Virginia, it's good to see you. And oh, and I saw Prophet, Broken Prophet is here, 28 pounds down since starting Carnivore.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I think that's pretty awesome, pretty amazing.
Yeah. 28, and
Yeah.
that's been he's been going maybe a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, I
Uh,
remember when I hit about that amount, it was kind of like, wow, this is actually really working. This is
mhm.
for real. Because you can fluctuate up and down like 5 or 10 pounds, but like, when you get past that, it's kind of like, oh,
Yeah, that's
I'm
that like
actually,
substantial weight.
yeah,
People see you and they start going like, oh, your
yeah,
face is smaller, your
yeah.
body's smaller, you're losing weight, and you look in the mirror and you go, my double chin's getting a little going away. That's cool. You can't deny those things.
Yeah, yeah. So, so let's get back to fasting. What is everybody's fasting routine? For those of you who are here, can you put it in the chat? Let us know what you do. And if you heard anything today that was surprising or new information for you. And Arian, I mean, are you interested in not eating after dark? Like, I didn't realize how big a deal that was, eating at night.
That was new. Her
Mhm.
saying that you can look at a person eating the exact same meal and the insulin response is different depending on if it's during the day or at night. Um,
Mhm.
that was extremely new and made a ton of sense. Like I had generally known that we're really like we're meant to be active during the day. That would be the time that we eat. It doesn't make sense to eat a big meal and then go sleep. But to hear that like people have done that study and they've seen exactly yes, it does increase your insulin, which makes perfect sense because it's after
Mhm.
dark. You're not going to be doing anything. We're not nocturnal creatures. So what is your body going to do with all of those nutrients that you just took in? We're going to use insulin to store them. That makes
Mhm.
perfect sense. And I just never heard anyone put it together quite like that before.
Hmm. Yeah.
And it makes sense for like even the days I do get kind of hungry at night, I never want a lot.
Hmm.
And even now, I don't know about you in New York, but in Baltimore, like it was dark at probably 6 o'clock today. Um,
Yeah.
I ate my last meal a little before then, and I still
Hmm.
feel that meal now.
Hmm.
I'm not gonna eat again today and won't need to. Like,
Hmm. Yeah. I've never had a problem with nighttime eating. But I do wonder with like, the thing is with fasting studies, so many of them are done on people who are not even in a state of ketosis. So I wonder if there's a difference between, how your body might respond when you're eating, a cheeseburger and a couple of beers at, midnight versus eating, you know, short ribs at midnight.
hmm
So I do kind of wonder about that. Um,
yeah, I would be interested to know. My guess is it would probably be, well, fat doesn't, as far as I know, fat doesn't have an effect on insulin, or it has a very insignificant effect. It's
well,
protein that has somewhat of an effect, and
mhm,
carbohydrates that especially do. And
mhm,
then fat and carbohydrates together are horrible.
yeah. I should have asked her that question.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah,
wonder if that research has been done too. Okay, so what about the composition of the meal at
yeah,
different times of day?
yeah. I mean, I'm not fighting it. Like I mean, I have never really had a problem eating late. I know, some people just don't want to do it, and other people like have, their sleep gets messed up. So yeah, for sure, it makes sense in those cases. Don't, don't eat.
Yeah.
But um, but I do wonder why, because it would seem to make sense that eating at night is when you would do it. Like if you're looking back at, our ancestors, like you might have had a fire, that's the time to sit down and cuddle up in front of the fire and eat something and have a full belly. Like, I don't know.
And
That
see,
helps you go to sleep. Like those seem all like wonderful things that you want to pair together.
and that makes sense. My thought process would be if you are your kill is going to be freshest during the day because you probably made that kill during the day. So I would think that's when, if not all of your eating happens, most of your eating. And at night is the soup, the jerky, or something like that. But if you killed something that day, you probably ate your fill earlier in the daytime.
But if you think back to, those early days when we were slaughtering, I mean, we were hunting like big game, like the size of an elephant. The day you killed it, sure, you're gonna eat that whenever. But,
Hmm.
then you've got like weeks or another month of stuff to get through before you might go hunting again. So in that case, you know, I mean, I wonder. I mean, this is all extrapolation, but perhaps everyone ate together, and everyone made one big meal once in the day, and that's when you ate, or whenever that time came together, that's when everybody ate, and then maybe if there was. If you wanted a snack or something like that later, you could, but it's, only one meal is being cooked at a time, at a day, and that's when everybody has it. I don't know,
Yeah, yeah, and that does make sense. And I just
because
know
even the
maybe
cooks want to sit down at night and they want to get
right,
off their feet.
right. So like this is my bias. Like I just know I don't know if I ever had problems with eating late, but I just didn't want to. Like
Hmm.
I normally like to have my dinner before 7, I think, every night.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it does feel like I feel like the oh, probably because of daylight savings. Um
Hmm.
the sunset just moved way up. And I feel like that's making me want to eat earlier.
Hmm. Well, yeah, yeah, nights come
Yeah.
quicker.
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if I'd have pain or anything if I ate late though. I just kind of don't want
Oh,
to.
okay. Yeah.
But I know some people, like you said, yeah, they've like a lot of people say they have bad dreams, and
Yeah,
I wonder if
I've
that's a
heard people
carnivore
say that.
thing or if that's like all food or if that's a carb thing.
No, I don't know. I think it's just an unusual thing. My dad says that when he eats onions, he has nightmares, and I'm like, what? What?
Onions.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. And I've heard other people say like some specific food causes them to have a nightmare about whales. I don't know. Weird.
Whales.
Yeah, or about something specific. It's just like I don't know. I don't understand how that connection gets made, but okay.
Hmm.
So, all right,
Um,
Esther says, oh, sorry.
but
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say another thing I really liked that she said was that she called it a gut break,
Mm-hmm. I
which
love that language.
yeah, it points to the purpose of fasting. You're not fasting just because you're not fasting because it's cool. You're doing it because your body should not be digesting food all the time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what standard American diet has us doing. We're constantly eating.
Right.
So it's just saying, no, just relax, work on what you have, use what you have, and give the gut a chance to, I guess, like reset.
Or just set to normal. Like
Yeah.
we're set to extra large because we're, ever expanding and eating more and more often. But if we reset.
Hmm.
Um, okay, so Esther says, I'm glad I don't especially need to do extended fasts to be successful on carnivore, but it's helpful. Um, yeah, so I really wonder about doing extended fasts. I mean, listening to her, it's kind of like maybe, I don't know. I
It
wonder how
doesn't seem
helpful that
necessary.
is. Yeah. So it sounds like I don't know. It sounds like that might be something that is meaningful to do like once a quarter, once a semester or once a tax season. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
an extended one. Yeah.
And I like that she said that for us, being carnivore, especially. Well, no, she talked about carnivore, especially in terms of you and getting enough nutrients. And said you will
Hmm.
probably not have that problem at all. But being low carb, you don't need to, or not you don't need to, but you're receiving the benefits of fasting
Hmm.
um, most of the time. And I like that she said it takes 16 benefits of autophagy.
Yeah, so you frozen, but it takes you about she said it takes about 16 hours to start ramping up autophagy. So it hits its peak, I think, at 72 hours, but it begins increasing as early as 16 hours.
Hmm.
So I've taken your camera off because you got frozen in a funny expression.
Oh,
Um,
geez. Let me see what this looks
so
like.
why don't you deal with that? So Delisa says she's begun to experiment with alternate day fasting. So I'd love to hear more about how that feels, Delisa, if that's going well. I don't know
This
why
is
you're
a great
laughing.
place to freeze.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, and I've forgotten about all the junk I've left behind me. I did not clean up today, so don't look. Let's see. So says I regularly fast 18 to 22 hours a day. That would have me eating either two meals a day or one meal a day. Many times it's longer and can just be because being busy. So that's eating is a distraction. Yeah, so that's awesome. So great how many people have a fasting regimen at all. I see Miss Tay I was doing 16/8, but I want to learn my hunger cues. So this week I've been eating when hungry, and I'm noticing I do longer than 16 on most days. And at least that's how it's been this week. Okay, so that's awesome. Yeah. And Let's see. So Miss Tatey, you've never had bad dreams when you when you ate something. Um, that's good to know. All right, I see you're back. You're moving. It's working.
Hopefully
Speak.
it stays. I changed the setting. I don't know if that was the problem, but I changed it.
Okay. Leon, carbs such as rice are known to cause funny dreams. That's interesting.
Hmm.
Hmm. Um,
Yeah, learning the hunger cues. I still think that is extremely important. Like, you don't know what they
mhm.
are until you actually test them.
Yeah.
And people on SAD, like, never actually feel their hunger, not in a real way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about what you said the other day about being, or somebody said this about being hungry, really hungry at your next meal. And there is such pleasure in eating when you're hungry. Like those times that you've been like, I don't know, traveling or something happened and like you literally couldn't get food for 12 hours and you finally get to sit down and eat. And it's
Hmm.
like, it's just an incredible feeling. And I so rarely get that feeling because I don't go to those lengths, for hunger. But it makes me think, man, you could have that pleasure every day, even if you just, wait. What are you laughing at?
I would just you could have that pleasure. It's just like, oh, you know what? It's doable. I could just not eat as often,
Yeah.
and I can
But
have this feeling.
I have to deny the little pleasures of eating each of those times. But then I get that one bang where it's like, wow, that was amazing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, that reminds me, I do feel like it's been easier to not feel hungry after meals since for the past 2 days my breakfast has been eggs and bacon ends, and I do
As
feel
opposed to what?
just I mean a lot of days lately it's been leftovers, so it'd be like eggs and brisket or something, and that brisket wasn't very fatty. But these
Oh,
bacon ends, some of those pieces are all fat.
gotcha.
That has seemed like it's made a difference, and I can just eat and not be
Yeah.
hungry, not
Yeah.
feel like eating at all.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Awesome. So it's interesting. The increased fat for you has really been a benefit.
I think so.
Hmm. Well, I was really playing around with it today too, and I don't know if you all saw my Instagram post, but I put some tallow on the side and I had that and yeah, I mean it definitely fills. I think I'm just gonna have to be fine with the tallow if I can't find the fattier meat. It was fine. It doesn't bother my stomach. It's fine.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Hmm. Yeah, I saw that tallow, and it was super yellow.
I know. I know. It's like really amazing. So
Yeah.
I hope I can get more from this guy.
Hopefully, you gotta like
I know. I'm gonna have to
get
write him.
a yeah, or set a reminder to check or
Yeah.
something
Hmm. Yeah.
because he sells out so fast. But yeah, so hmm. So fat seems to be helping both of us. That's good.
Hmm. Yeah. Let's see. Says, my fasting started becoming more lengthy by trying to find my body's hunger signals. This culture uses that ghrelin too much to satisfy for no reason. So yeah, we eat too much.
Yeah.
That's definitely for sure. And yeah, and learning to respond to your own hunger signals is really important. And I wonder how
Say it again.
those, yeah, I wonder how those signals would, how they would line up with, over time, when you get some consistency, would you find that you're sort of getting hungry, at, every, I don't know, at 28 hours, habitually, or is it, at noon, you just kind of get into that rhythm, or what? I'm curious to see about that.
Yeah, and I guess I wonder, is it should we, as a rule, wait until we are starving hungry? Like, is that the better path to go down? Or is that a thing that we should know that we can do? Like, is it bad to just eat when you feel like eating most of the time or all the time,
Hmm.
knowing that you could wait until you were completely starving hungry?
Yeah. I don't know. I think those are great questions. I mean, I don't know that there's benefit for me anyway, if there's benefit to waiting until, like, if you take, my hunger on a scale of like, 0 to 10, if I am trying to wait till I get to 0 or 1 before I eat, but, maybe waiting until I get to 3 or 2, that, I don't want to be so ravenous that, like, I'm gonna knock somebody out to try and steal their meal. But
please, please, no fights.
yeah, no, no reason to do that. But I am curious as to, how far, how far I go. So, oh, oh my goodness. Denise said Lardist just had more in stock, and I ordered a few days ago. Oh, I'm almost sorry I said that, because everyone here who's on the stream is going to go and get some. But there you go. I like to share. I care. Sharing is caring. So I
Yep.
give you that information.
Denise,
And here we
Denise just
go.
told the story.
What?
Denise just told, and now they're all
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess I'm going to have to order like right now.
get it.
Um, Yeah, and that stuff was actually really awesome. I like it on my skin, especially. That might be a weird thing to say, but
Nah, or
um,
it may be now, but it definitely wasn't 100 years ago.
what wasn't 100 years ago?
Saying that you like lard on your skin or the tallow.
Well, yeah, the previous kinds that I'd gotten, I don't feel like were as good, but now I do feel like what I've gotten, is as good
Hmm.
or better even. So.
Are you looking for it right now?
Yes. Because before it's all gone, this stuff is really working for me. Oh my goodness, I've got a bunch of things in my cart. All right, I'm not going to do this right now, but you guys leave me some.
Don't
I
buy it
need it.
all.
Don't buy it all. Okay. Um, and says on days or weeks that I'm more physically active, I usually find, well, she probably usually has 2 meals a day.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I guess it, really just depends.
And that goes along with what the fasting doctor was saying about her kids on the busy days. Um, they're coming in more often, and she might feel like she just fed them, and now they want more, as opposed to on the, I guess, the more chill days, she feels like no one's coming in asking for food.
Hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's good stuff. So how else have you been? How was your well, what did we talk about Halloween? We didn't talk about Halloween at all. We talked about our stuff last on Tuesday. So did you go out? Did you have social stuff, and how did you keep carnivore?
I hung out with a friend, and we didn't do anything special.
Oh, so
So
you were
it
not
was
tempted.
very, yeah, yeah, it was very easy. We did eat some, what did I get? Some like Mediterranean ground lamb food.
That sounds delicious.
It was really good. It was spicier than what I wanted though.
Oh.
They asked me if I wanted mild, medium, or hot, and I said mild, and their mild tastes like medium. So I,
Yeah,
s- I still ate it, was still happy with it, and didn't have any problems. But
yeah.
definitely, I would have enjoyed it more without the heat.
Hmm. Interesting. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. What
Well,
about you?
yeah, I went to a party and it was a vegetarian party and there was a lot of candy there and like cut up veggies with like dipping sauce and nuts and olives and some kind of vegetarian chili. So I fasted.
See, I think if I'm at a thing like that, I probably like so the they have the plate with the like celery and carrots and the ranch and blue cheese in the middle. Like I probably would eat some of that.
Why?
Well, because ranch and blue computer just refuses.
Okay, you froze again.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't know why you would eat the crudité. Like, especially, I saw people eating the broccoli, and I'm thinking, man, raw broccoli.
Oh yeah, definitely not
That's,
broccoli.
yeah, that is rough stuff.
But
So,
yeah, like celery or carrots, especially celery. Like it's not gonna hurt. It's just not as good as if this was a chicken wing that I was putting this ranch on.
okay. Well, no, I wouldn't do it. And yeah, I fasted, but it definitely, it was a little bit hard for a little bit in the beginning when people were really eating. But
Hmm.
after that, I kind of like got over it. But by the time I did get home, like I was starving, really hungry.
Oh, so you hadn't ate like for a while and then went to a vegetarian party.
Yeah, I had probably last eaten at like 11 or 12.
Mm.
And then, and I was at the party at like 5 or 6 and didn't get home until like 3. So, yeah,
Ouch.
yeah, it was a long, I had already not been eating a long time at the point that the food came out, but it was okay.
Mm.
So
All
I
right.
don't know, if because like it's one thing to be, to stay on track when you're at home or not very far, but um, yeah. So I see, well, let's see, Bayet says eat the olives or maybe nuts for fat. Yeah, I think for me, like, I have this issue of with the allergies. So eating the olives or the nuts would be probably a major problem. It would be worse for me than trying to not eat anything. So, but I guess everybody sort of has to figure their thing out. So let's see. So anybody else, what would you say, your fasting regimen is going to be for this coming week? Do you have a plan? I think I'm going to really get back into focusing in on doing the one meal a day, and I'm probably, I've been trying to keep that one meal a day like midday, but that sort of gets thrown off sometimes. But I might go back to really trying to keep that at midday. Um, and go from there. Okay, Aria made it back. Yes, yes. Can you hear me?
Mhm.
Okay, so I have you on. Um, all right.
Sorry about this. I really wish I could. It, it doesn't make any sense to me. And this didn't used to happen at all.
Yeah, I don't know. So, well, anyway, I think have covered a lot of ground tonight, and I
What are you
think it might
giggling
be
at?
time. I don't know. I think it might be time to wrap up tonight. it's been a long day, and it was a great interview. Um,
Yes.
yeah, and yeah, Johnny G says he loves how eyes lit up when you said the Mediterranean spice lamb. But yeah, that sounds really good, and agrees.
Yeah, I need a way to like I need to find out what those spices were so I can just get some ground lamb and put that on it.
Okay. Well, I see Miss M says every other day. She's looking to do every other day fasting.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's we had talked about that last night. So I'm curious to hear how that goes. And actually, for everybody here, I did put up a notification about doing a no, sorry, Thanksgiving to Christmas 30-day or month-long challenge to stay carnivore through the holiday season. So we're not doing anything draconian. We're not trying to do anything super hard. Just stay on track. Try to stay on track through the holiday. So I am calling on you to start on the day after Thanksgiving, and we'll go until the day after Christmas. So uh, I think I put up some notification of that, but I'm asking really if you guys are interested in doing it. Let me know, because I mean, it's hard to add hard things during the holiday season, but at the same time, some of us might feel like this is the only way to just kind of even maintain, and because gaining, we can really pack away food, you
Yeah,
know.
that makes sense. And even it it's setting a goal
Hmm.
that will help you, like you said, like minimize the bad effects of this what did you call it? Tuesday eating season?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, yeah, we want to minimize those effects as much as we can. So it makes perfect sense to try to focus on being carnivore during this time,
Hmm.
um, so that when you get to next year, you don't have to make a resolution. Oh, I'm gonna go carnivore. Oh, Christmas happened and it was so horrible. Well, I had Christmas and Thanksgiving before then. I was eating leftovers for a week and then leftovers for a week and then there's all the pies and all the cakes are out everywhere. And instead of coming into January feeling like crap and I gotta fix my life,
Hmm.
you can already be on your way.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have one taker. Virginia's in, so it'll
Good
be me and
stuff.
Virginia. Yeah. Yeah, I definitely am going to do that. And I think, I'll try to give it some camaraderie. I don't know. Maybe we'll even like, I don't know, maybe even go all in, like have a Christmas carnivore challenge club. I don't know.
Mm.
Yeah, because you can start those groups on Facebook. Like you could start one that's just for that, and you could have like video and live stream and stuff like that in the Facebook group. That might be something to do.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. So Angie Life has been doing 16-8, 2 meals a day for at least a year. That's awesome. What would you say are the benefits that you have experienced from doing that? Angie Life, I'm asking.
Yeah, I was about to answer and I said, no, I don't
Not,
think she's
not
talking to
you.
me.
Not you. Okay, awesome. Miss M is in.
Good
Delisa is
stuff.
in. Awesome. And it would be good to eat a snack before going to functions to avoid a repeat on the Halloween party. Um, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. So I'm just unclear about how I feel about snacking because I feel
Yeah,
like
I
I
think that
don't want to encourage me. I already eat in preparation for future hunger, and that's kind of what snacking is.
mhm.
And it tends to, have me heading in the wrong direction. So I don't know. That's just something I think about. But yeah,
I would think before a thing like that, really, instead of a snack, what you want to do is actually eat for real.
yeah. Well, I
Like,
couldn't. Like there, just the circumstances of the day. I more or less left the house at like 11 or 12, so there was no opportunity to eat after that.
yeah.
I didn't prepare by bringing jerky, and you know, so
Yeah, and I think some days are just like that. Like
mhm,
the best you can do is just to fast through a thing. Um,
yeah,
it's kind of sometimes you talk about a thing that happened and like there's a lot of advice that gets thrown around and it could be useful, but it just would not have worked in that situation. Like the most prepared person, unless you're changing your whole day around, could not have got through that any
mhm,
differently.
yeah,
Um, because yeah, ideally, like what I do ideally is I eat before. I'm gonna be out and I don't want to make a bunch of bad decisions. Well, I'm gonna
mhm,
eat sometime from probably about a half hour to 2 or 3 hours before going to that thing, and then
mhm,
I'm fine. It's much easier to make good decisions because I'm not hungry at all.
right,
But that's
yeah,
not always possible.
yeah, yeah. It was just yeah. Let's see. Miss Tatey says she's in, but already planning to cheat for her birthday. So when is your birthday? I assume it's somewhere in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. But you know, the best gift we can give ourselves for our birthdays and otherwise is good health. So I encourage you not to cheat for your birthday. Yeah.
8A, the motivational speaker.
Yeah. Well, you know, I finally stopped using my birthday as an excuse. Calories, insulin, you know, diabetes, they all exist on every single day,
Mhm.
including your birthday.
Yeah.
Um, okay. Oh, December 23rd. Oh, Christmas baby. So
Oh,
sweet. Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Until you get one gift all year.
yeah. Well, you could celebrate on New Year's Eve. There you go. I thought about whether to extend the fast from Thanksgiving to New Year's Eve, but um, the graphics are better looking for Christmas. So 30 days, 30 days. That's all I can do.
And that's how we make decisions around here.
Hmm.
If the marketing doesn't look right, we're not doing it.
Well, if you have a creative eye, you know, it just works better.
Right? Yeah.
Because there's not,
Um,
you know, there's not a lot of images for New Year's.
what
Like
would you?
I'm not going to use champagne. There's fireworks.
You can
There's
have
somebody throwing
fireworks.
up in the corner.
You can have
Uh,
a big crystally ball dropping, big disco
mhm.
ball. That's kind of it. Maybe a
Yeah.
calendar. Yeah, there's not much.
Oh yeah, that's right. Father Time and Baby New Year. Forgot about that one.
Oh, I don't see now you. I literally meant a calendar that was January with the one X'd off. What is this Father Time and Baby New Year?
Well, Father Time is Kronos. That's the god of time, like the head oldest god in the Greek pantheon, I think. And
Yeah,
then the correspondent to Zeus, I think. And then Baby New Year is the new. I don't know. Anyway, you see, you know, you
I
do see people making reference to Father Time and Baby New Year. Anyway, so
my
we're not doing it
Father
to that.
Time was Chronos.
Thanksgiving to Christmas. Thanksgiving to Christmas. Yeah, Kronos. It's time.
Huh. Well, so I knew the god Chronos. I think he's either a god or a titan, one of the two. But I did not
Titan.
know
Right.
he was called Father Time, or
Mm-hmm.
like Father Time refers to him.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know
Cool.
who Baby New Year is looking to or referencing to.
Yeah, I'm not
The
sure.
cherub. I don't know. Anyway.
Somewhere along the line, we made that up.
Yeah. Yeah. We made that up. So Angie likes its appetite control, weight loss over time. She gathered great benefits in the first year of carnivore. This is her second year, and IF just fits her life. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Cooking
I love.
less. Perfect.
I love. I want to see. Once the pandemic's over and I go back to work, will I start like really just eating one meal? Because even being carnivore this whole time, I'd be IF when I was at home, but at work I would still have two meals and then a third
Mhm.
meal at the
Yeah.
end of the day. So
Yeah.
I wonder now, will it be so much easier to just pack one meal, eat it around like 10 a.m., and that's it for the workday?
10 a.m.
Yeah,
So you would
some
make your
days.
one meal breakfast.
No, 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 no. My one meal at work.
Oh, okay. You would still eat at work.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I had wished that I could get to one meal a day because I got so tired of carrying around food and snacks and stuff to work. Like I hated that. No,
But if
you
you're,
should.
but so if you're too mad and you've got a pretty wide window, you're like 16:8 or something, you're only taking one meal to work. Is that still frustrating?
Yes, I wanted to take and carry nothing. I wanted to carry a small, cute purse and not have to wonder where am I carrying my lunch and stuff. And then I often, almost always, went out directly after work. So I wouldn't get home until 10 o'clock at night. So when I was losing weight
Ouch.
and I was doing keto, I was bringing my lunch in. I stopped bringing snacks because I just didn't want to bother it. So I was bringing that one meal, which I ate about 1 o'clock, and then I was trying to push it till 10 o'clock when I got home. And a lot of times I was going to places that had, it was like a cocktail party. There'd be alcohol, there'd be, cheese and, all of that kind of stuff. So,
Charcuterie.
yeah. And so so some days, like, I would just get so hungry and I would just eat some cheese and some salami or whatever. But so I didn't eat a lot, but it wasn't enough to make me feel like, I was full. So I was just regularly pushing it until like 10 o'clock. And then I'd get home and then I absolutely would eat. Um, and and again, I loved that feeling of eating. And then, I was finally satisfied and lay back and put my feet up and just kind of hang out. It was, that's a good feeling when your belly's full, your feet are up. It's a nice feeling.
I
Like
get it.
that, I can
It's
fall asleep to.
it feels like really tied to your lifestyle though, or at least your lifestyle at that time of
Yeah.
like being out and moving and doing things for like literally the whole day.
Hmm.
And then part of your wind down relaxation routine was the eating and eating until you were full and very satisfied.
Hmm. Yeah. Because, I mean, I guess on those days that you're right, that where, even if it's not a bad stress, like, to be out and about, having lots of experiences, carrying things, going lots of places, I mean, there is a stress to that. And
Hmm.
so coming home and then, eating that way and having a complete relaxation after, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds cool.
Well, not if it triples my insulin spike and makes it
Well,
harder to lose weight. No.
right, but I wonder. I really want blood insulin tests. Just
Hmm.
finger prick insulin tests. I need them so bad. But I guess even then, testing insulin is like, well, if the insulin's being used right, then there's parts of that science that I don't know. Like how long, say you eat a meal that causes an insulin spike, how long is that insulin detectable in your system?
Yeah. Great question.
Hmm.
And what kind of, what impact is it having as it's doing that? I mean, I
Right.
think that the question, that is a determination, that is determined by how insulin resistant you are. So if you're a person who's more insulin resistant, that spike is going to be higher and it's going to take longer to come down. But if you are more metabolically stable, the spike will be high, but it will come down, within 2 hours or whatever it's considered normal.
Right. Yeah.
And that would be the difference.
Yeah. That
But
actually,
how do you know which one you are?
well, probably by comparing yourself to the average person.
I mean, if you're not directly measuring insulin, how would you know? Like, as I
Oh,
wonder for a person who like was formerly obese for a long time, they lost weight, they got into fasting, they did all this stuff, the insulin is down low. Um, But I wonder if that person still is inherently more insulin resistant than someone who had never been obese and, who had maintained the same weight, for years. That person might just be less insulin resistant just by virtue of never having, you know, had that damage that occurs from carrying that extra weight.
Oh, and see, the lectures I've seen about that have seemed to say that it'll take longer for that first person to become insulin sensitive, but once they're like, they can reach it and
Hmm.
reach the same level of insulin sensitivity as anybody else.
Hmm. Well, that's good to know.
Yeah,
Yeah. I wonder how
yeah,
long that takes.
yeah. That that is a good question. Um, because we know that we can generally lower insulin very quickly with a very low carb diet, but yeah, we don't know like how sensitive you are. Um, will you get to the point that you can easily handle some carbohydrates? Um,
Hmm.
well, we know you'll get there, but I guess like how easily will you handle the carbohydrates
Hmm.
is the point of deciding or determining like just how insulin sensitive you are. So yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's interesting that that would be the thing that determines how insulin sensitive we are. I mean, it's, if we think of it as a bad substance that is not required or necessary or helpful for anyone, and you can go the rest of your life without having it again,
Hmm.
that is the measure by which we determine if we're insulin resistant or not. It seems funny. Like, like as long as you're not eating it, you are insulin sensitive,
Or yeah,
presumably.
or you're at least as long as you're not eating it, you're in a state of not needing much insulin, which means your levels will be low, which probably to an extent is even more important than being sensitive in the first place.
Hmm.
Like, say we had some objective measure of sensitivity. What's
Hmm.
probably more important for your health is just, are your insulin levels on average low?
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we have we've had a good
Right.
conversation tonight, and
Random science conversation.
yeah, we wandered into that without even knowing that's where we were going. But I do love to, sort of think about how the human body responds to some of these things that we do, and I am really, I'm definitely more willing and ready to kind of experiment with fasting and kind of see what the effects are. But I do feel like even what I've been doing the last couple of weeks, I've started to notice a difference. So I don't know. So it's meaningful for me, definitely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And the extended fasting, maybe I will kind of think about doing, trying to do a 3 day fast or even a 5 day fast, like once a quarter.
Hmm.
Maybe, like use that as I don't know, to mark the calendar, going into spring cleanup, or, New Year's cleanup for the new year. I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds like it sounds like at the very least it wouldn't hurt, and you
Yeah.
could see how you feel when you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know the guy that made the Dr. Bonner soap? Did you ever use that soap?
I've seen it. I feel like I've
Yeah.
used their deodorant once or twice.
Oh, okay. So even from when I was a little kid, they've been making that soap since forever. So as a little kid, I had that same bottle of soap with all that writing on it, and it, I was a kid. I used to read it, and it's,
Oh,
crazy
sorry.
to
I'm
me.
thinking of Tom's, not that.
Yeah, no,
Completely
not
different
Tom's.
thing.
Yeah, Dr.
I've
Bonner's.
seen Dr. Bronner's. Never. I couldn't
Yeah,
find it. I was looking for it for a while and I couldn't find
yeah,
it.
yeah. So he is really, really into fasting, or he was, and so they have like a foundation, and they do all of this. They have all these materials and resources to encourage people to fast. So, and they do it quarterly, like in the company, everybody works there, like that's just a thing. So I
Really.
was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, fasting is like a thing everywhere.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I like that she said um, it's kind of, I guess because she comes from the Jason Fung school of fasting, that
Hmm.
the extended fast, like the alternate day or the 3 days and stuff like that, like those are good for the folks. They're especially good for the folks who aren't cleaning up their diet.
Hmm.
And that's exactly how Jason uses it. He tells people, all right,
Hmm.
it's going to be really hard to get you off of rice. So here's what we can do instead.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, which is probably, I think that's why fasting is becoming so popular.
Because it allows you to stick with your other bad habits.
Right. Yeah. Like I noticed
Yeah.
somebody asked in the chat about the snake juice, or yeah, I think it was
Oh
snake
yeah,
juice
we didn't
fast.
get back to we didn't get back to answering the question about snake juice.
Yeah, but it would have been it would have been a long question to answer because you'd have to explain the question first, because
Hmm.
probably a lot of the audience doesn't know what snake juice is. Like they don't know what
Hmm.
coal is doing, and I don't know that even the fasting doc would have known. But like his whole thing, Cole is this guy, this influencer who I think at one point was carnivore, but it seems like he's stopped being carnivore now, and he just says fasting is all you need to do.
Hmm.
You'll be healthy as hell, just fast. And he just tells people eat the biggest meal that you can, eat whatever you want, and then don't eat for as long as you can.
Hmm.
And while you're not eating, if you're gonna wet fast, then drink this snake juice, which is just water with electrolytes.
Hmm. Yeah.
And I think
Um,
that's appealing to a bunch of people who really don't want to change the diet.
yeah. Yeah. That would have been appealing to me. And I've been like, yeah, I'm all in. Here is my final meal, and I got cake and, cheeseburger and pizza and this and that. And then, I'd eat that, and then the next day, somebody would call and be like, "Oh, let's go to breakfast." And I'd be like, "Yeah, where?" You know, completely
Hmm.
forgetting that I'm supposed to be fasting.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what would happen to me. So let's see. VKit says, would weekly 48 or 72-hour fast be too much? So that was the question that I was trying to ask her, because when we were talking about the gastrointestinal distress and people, needing to like slowly reintroduce food at that point, um, it would seem like it would be hard to do a weekly 3-day fast if you're then spending another 24 hours trying to transition. Like it doesn't give you a lot of eating time during the week. So, she said that that might be too often, and maybe you want to do it once a month. But if gastrointestinal distress is not a problem, I don't know. Maybe weekly 48-hour fast would be fine. I don't know. That would really depend on you.
Yeah. I'd say it sounds like if it feels fine, then like if you're not having problems, then go ahead and do it. But um, yeah, that's going to be an individual decision if you're not having problems. If you are having problems, it definitely sounds like it's overboard.
Yeah, yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Um, Okay, so I think we should wrap this up, but I am looking forward to talking to you all on Tuesday next week, and I'm gonna put more information out about the Thanksgiving to Christmas challenge. I think we wanna yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to get more information out there and get a lot of people signed up, and we'll start it on November 26th, which I think is the day Black Friday, day after Thanksgiving. All right
I
then.
think so.
So
What day is Thanksgiving?
I don't know. It's a
Isn't it?
Thursday. So always the
Okay.
last Thursday of the month, I think.
Okay. So then it's starting on the 27th. That's Black Friday.
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Sorry.
27th, which I think
Okay.
is right because I think that's what's on the graphic.
Okay. All right. So that's awesome. So I will get that information out there wherever you follow me. Come find it there, and and we'll go from there. All right, everybody. We had a great night. Oh, wow. Look at all these other quotes and comments and stuff. So, love the conversation in the chat. Oh, Angie Life says Dr. Nadir Ali encourages his patients to do a 72-hour fast once a month. Oh, that's good to know.
Hmm.
Um, Miss M thinks a weekly 48 is fine, maybe a monthly 72. Yeah, that makes some sense. And all right, and so there we go. All right, good night, everybody. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you soon. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Good night.